Alright, here we have an NP263HD transfer case. This was originally a electric shift transfer case, as you can see from the motor mounting position on the side there. And this one, I traded a working NP246 transfer case, and I received this one as a core. I didn't realize that they were different. I really didn't know at the time. So this one, the NP263, has 4 positions. It has low, neutral, 2-wheel drive, and 4 high. The NP246 only has a high range and a low range and neutral. So your front drive shaft's spinning all the time, and the way it works is it locks and unlocks the front differential to give you 4-wheel drive. And when you have the auto position selected, it'll give you, it'll lock the front if it feels slip. So I prefer this style where it has a 2-wheel drive position because I don't like the front drive shaft turning all the time. So I was supposed to be getting a manual transfer case, but apparently that has fallen through. So I had this case back there. It didn't sound right when I was trying to manually shift it from the side. I just put a 15mm wrench on there on this shaft right there and started rotating it and checking it out and all. And so it started making a lot of noise, or was making noise. Got a bunch of different stories about it from the guy I got it from, you know. So the best thing to do is just take it apart and figure out what you got and go from there. So I'd always heard about pump rub with these cases, and I really didn't know what it was talking about. I thought that it was talking about the chain would get loose and rub the case here and rub through the case. Well, what they're talking about is this right here. You can probably see the hole in it right there where it see daylight. So that's what happens is, let's see if I can get a good, you can see it right there. So initially when I saw it, I didn't know it was all the way through the case. And again, I was looking for chain rub. Didn't know about this. So once I started doing some research, I found that what happens is this is your pump housing as it comes from the factory. So this clip is actually supposed to have a tab on here and actually goes on that little raised boss on the case. So this fits in there, not like that, like this. And then the pump housing, however you can figure it, sits in there like this. And this is what holds the pump on the shaft over there. So if you look, you can see how much movement that pump housing has in this case. And this is all that's preventing these basically knife edges from coming through the case. So I mean, that's it. So obviously, as this is moving in the case, as you're going down the road, it breaks this tab, and then this piece, you know, stays in there or comes out, and then this comes in and just, you know, buzzsaw cuts through the tail housing, and then you lose all your fluid, and then you trash the unit. So apparently this one obviously had rubbed through right there. You can see my finger from the back side and mess this case up. So of course I'm going to try to TIG weld it back together and fix it, but Again, I just thought it was here, but it's every position, obviously, because it has to move to do that. So every little notch is worn into from this thing. So I mean, a new tail housing is like $200, but I'm too cheap to buy one. I got a TIG welder. I'll just weld it up and fix it. So speaking of fixing, so you get rid of this crap, and then you go with this right here. So this replaces the back side of the pump and gives you more surface area and the width of it, and it's also, they're a lot wider, just a lot more surface area sitting inside that case to hold it and prevent the pump rub. I mean, if that had a tighter tolerance, it probably would have done better. But I mean, I don't know how somebody could design that. I mean, you've got this shaft spins. This is held stationary by the case, the tail housing. And then you're going to put knife edges to hold it in the aluminum, and then I don't know if this I guess it is aluminum. I thought it was steel, but it is aluminum. But still, you know, surface area, I mean, that's how a knife works. You get a small surface area, an edge, and then it cuts. I mean, anyway, so this came in today. When I was tearing it apart, this was damaged. So this is your range selector, and it's supposed to be thick enough to fit in here. And obviously it has like neoprene or some kind of hardened plastic or something to isolate the two materials, because the forks are aluminum and the shaft and all is steel. So, you know, it's like just the shift fork pads. So that's what was wrong with this unit, is this fork actually disintegrated. You can see how it rubbed through, and there should be a mounting tab right here. So you should have this slot, that slot, and then that one, and then the pad goes on both sides and then has a nice tight fit in there, but it doesn't. So it just wore through this over time and without any fluid, I assume. I mean, it ate that thing up. So what was happening is this is your range selector. So this comes in here into this planet, and all the way forward it engages, and this is turned by the output of the transmission. So that turns, and that, I think that's 1-to-1. And then in the middle here is neutral, so that noise is what I was hearing, and that's because the shift fork wasn't able to disengage it from high range and pull it back into, now this is low range from the reduction from this planetary gear, just like a transmission. So that was what I was hearing, is it was in between. You can see that gap right there where my finger is, hopefully. So that gap right there was where these teeth were, and I assume that's a neutral position. I gotta finish cleaning it, obviously, but I guess that's a neutral to put the transfer case in neutral, is that position right there, and then the shifter puts it all the way forward, high range, low range. So that's that one. Then The secondary fork, which I got a new one too because I got to looking at it and it looks like it got worn into too. So I mean, if I'm gonna go through the trouble, I might as well replace it. So I got both new forks, this pump housing, and I think that's about it. So everything else looked okay, as far as I could tell. And so the range goes on there like that. And then this collar right here, when it's brought forward position from this shift fork, that puts this gear in neutral. So when this gear is in neutral, then it doesn't turn your output to the front. So that's two-wheel drive position, is when this collar is in neutral. And then this, if you had a way to do another lever, you could set it up like a Dana 20 and have with a twin stick and have front wheel drive and rear wheel drive, but I just want to get this one working. So high range, back's low range, and then in the middle is neutral, and then this one, if I could slide it with one hand, would come up, one click, and then this whole assembly would be in neutral. So then the whole truck would roll regardless if it was in park or not in the transmission. So everything again seems to look okay. This is your little magnet. This magnet goes in the case right here, and then this is actually your pickup tube for this oil pump. You can see where this goes into the pump like so, and then this comes over and slides into the case with the magnet underneath it to try to prevent it from sucking up metallic stuff through the pump. Of course, these holes are pretty small on this screen, but so this sucks the fluid up, comes into the tube, comes over into your pump, and then lubes the shaft assembly there. So that's how that works. But the shift forks and stuff I just ordered online. It shows one of them has shipped. I ordered this one first because obviously this was messed up, and then again when I started looking at it, I saw the wear on this fork and just decided to go ahead and get it as well. This is a pretty hefty chain, pretty heavy duty. I mean that's pretty good chain. And then this snap ring goes in there to hold that planet in, so, or the outer gear set of that planet. So to take that out, you got to pull the seal off. I guess it's the input to the transfer case. The output of the transmission comes into here. So this is 32 spline because it's a 4L80 truck. And then behind that seal there is a snap ring. You pull that out, and then this assembly comes out here, and then there's another snap ring on the top side that you take out and then disassemble the planet further. I'm not going to go that deep into it. I just want to clean everything up, fix the forks, fix the pump rub, make sure the housing will hold fluid again, and then put it back together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an arm like on this. So I mean all it is just an arm with a pivot ball, and then this is the linkage that goes to the floor shift in the truck. So this is all the way back position. So I'll just take some measurements, make a template of this lever arm, and then I'll replicate it on here. I thought about drilling and tapping this and having it bolted, and I might just, tack weld it on there and just make the fork, put it in the all the way back position, make it the same height, and then just put a couple tack welds on it and then we'll have a floor shifted transfer case and avoid all the shortcomings of electric cases. I would use this transfer case. This is the transfer case out of the 07 or 08 Silverado, the black truck out there, but it's a 27 spline input because it's a 4L60. So this plug right here I do not have on my case, and what it does, it has 3 wires, and it grounds the front diff when you put it in four-wheel drive to lock the front end in gear, and then it also outputs a ground to the ECU to let the ECU know that it's in low range so it can change the shift table in it. So I wish I could figure a way to integrate this into this case so I could perform the same function. I don't know if it kind of looks like maybe that vent tube might be the same location. I'll look at it and see. Otherwise I'll have to put a micro switch or something on the shifter and see if it, figure out a way to make it when you change the positions that it does what that switch does. But otherwise it'll maintain the same switch I have in there right now, the NP246. Right now it just has a switch in the little cubby hole by the AC vent, and you flip it, it grounds the output to the electric motor on the front diff, and then it's in four-wheel drive. But right now I don't have a way to get it into low range, and again I want a true two-wheel drive position, so that's why I'm going with this case. And that other case fell through, so again, I gave my NP246 that came off of a 4L80, I got $200 for that, and then I got this back as a core. So I think I've spent a little over $100 trying to fix this one. It's more now because I bought this other fork, but this front fork was, I think, $50 or $60. This pump housing was about, again, I think $50 or $60, and then this shift fork was $56. Yeah, so that's over $150 right there. And then of course, this shift fork doesn't come with the pads on either side, so I had to buy those, and those were $6 a piece too. So, but hopefully, the rest of this stuff on this shaft is okay. Because if it did lose fluid, then it could be more damage. But I know the bearings, they sound fine, they look okay. This one doesn't have any. I've been pressure washing it, trying to clean it up so I can TIG weld it, these tabs. But this stuff was filthy, man. Of course, you can see on the outside of this case, the tail housing was way worse than that. So, I'll weld this up, and then hopefully my pieces will come in, the shift forks, and then I can get it back together and get this thing going and into the white truck and have a manually shifted four-wheel drive transfer case with a two-wheel drive position, and then I'll have low range. So that truck's doing real well. I filled up yesterday. It went close to, I think it was a little over 300 miles on the tank, and it got about 12.5 miles to the gallon, and that was on 87 pump gas, because that was what was in there when the engine spun the cam bearing. And then I bumped the compression to 10:9 to 1 from 10 to 1, so of course it spark knocked, and I had to go, and I went in there and pulled a couple degrees here and there to reduce it, the spark knock. But this time I went with 89 this time, and it runs great. It's got really good power. I'm really impressed by it. The added compression really helped, and I just really enjoyed driving that truck. It runs really good. I haven't really messed with NA60s too much. I mean, I have for customers. I've done cams and stuff in them and headers and the normal stuff I do to them, but this one really, you know, like I say, with the bump and compression and that camshaft and everything. Oh, and with the 33-pound injectors, it really brought my duty cycle down. So before I was out of injector and it was spark knocking due to being out of fuel. So now I think the highest duty cycle I saw was about 55%. And like I say, it pulls really strong. It's really impressive, you know, for being in a crew cab 4-wheel drive 2500. So, but I'll do a video on it and go over it. It's doing good. I've just been driving it and, you know, just enjoying driving it.